I recently did an exercise with my online workshop students that I applied to this painting. Stick around to find out what I did that pushed me through the middle stages. Okay, let's get started. Hello and welcome. This is Betty with Betty Franks Art, and today we are going to be working on 48 by 36 inches on canvas. And I always like to get started with some mark making. I've got a pencil sharpener, electric pencil sharpener over in that corner. That doesn't seem to always work so great. I really should invest in another one. It seems like the really old pencil sharpeners, electric pencil sharpeners, work so much better than the newer ones. This is the second one that I purchased, and it doesn't work any better than the other one that I had. So I've started with some mark making here. This is all part of my process. These marks will not show up in that final piece. It is just my way of connecting to the canvas, to loosen up, to get my arms in motion, and also to obliterate that white canvas. Now I put down some marks with a water-soluble, I think it was a graphite crayon, and I love that graphite crayon because I can just come in with either a spray bottle or with my brush like I did right there, and some water, and just go over those lines. And as I mentioned before, again, these aren't going to show up, and to me it's just really cool, and I just love this part of the process. So I'm multitasking here. I'm hitting it with my hair dryer to dry those wet areas, but I'm also continuing with my mark making. I am not a very patient person when it comes to painting, and I am using acrylics today. If you haven't followed me, then you probably don't know that I love acrylics because they dry fast and I can move quickly from one layer to the next. Now, another part of my process after I put down that mark making is I like to go right into adding some black. Now, this black is actually a mix of several different colors, although looking at it from this distance it just looks like black, but it's got a little bit more depth to it. I've added some, I honestly don't remember which colors. I want to say like some blue in it and some green in it, just to add a little bit more depth to the carbon black that I'm using. I am using Nova color paints. I've got a link down below if you want to check them out. I've also got a link to the most common colors that I use from Nova. If you're just getting started and you don't know which colors to try out, I've got a list of the ones that I use most often. And I recommend getting the 4-ounce jars. Those are a great way to sample, if you sample a color for the color and the consistency, to see if it's something that you like. Now here, instead of washing my brush, I like to go right into just cleaning off the brush a bit, getting rid of as much black as possible, and then go right into some white. I tend to use gesso for my white, and adding some gray right from the start. Again, multitasking, drying with one hand and painting with the other. So I'm adding some circles here. I don't really think about my composition at this point, but I do think about adding different sizes and shapes of the mark making that I do, so that later I can decide if I want to really use any one of these in that final piece or not. And the more marks that I can put down at this stage, the more options I'll have later. Here I just flip my brush around and I'm scratching into the wet paint. And in that spray bottle was water, so that was to get some drips going. I love drips. And drips this early on are not going to show up, but again, it's just part of my process. For me, painting is not about the outcome. I'm not in my head thinking about what this is going to look like, because I have no clue what it's going to look like. I love the process of painting. So every step of the process, from this point where I'm making marks, and here that black was pretty dry, so I came back in with some mark making again right over those marks. So going back to my love for this process, it's every step of the way. I love all of it, and taking this whole journey is, part of my making of Mark. My process of making art is the journey, is what I'm trying to say. And that journey, some days it's longer, some days it's a little bit shorter. And this one, I think I shortened it a bit. I'm going to show you in the middle section how I was able to shorten it a little bit and get through the painting a little bit quicker. So I've got a spatula in my hand. It's just a regular Betty Crocker. See, they got my first name right. It's a Betty Crocker spatula I got at the dollar store. And love this one because it's super convenient. And here I am adding, I think I've got quinacridone red in that jar, one of my favorite colors. And then when you mix white with it, it makes a delicious pink, as you can see in that upper center area. I like to go with either warm colors or cool colors so that I'm not cross-mixing and creating mud, unless mud is what I want. And so it looks like I'm going with warm colors this time. So my warm colors are my reds, pinks, oranges, yellows. Yellow works with both my warm colors and my cool colors. So I tend to use it for either one of those. I'm not sure what color that is that I'm putting on there right now. It must be something that I mixed on my palette. It's not a super exciting color looking at it from here, but that's all right. We're just on the first stages here, early on. And anything goes. It really doesn't look like anything at this point. Just putting down marks, different sizes and shapes. And again, flipping over my brush so I can scratch into that wet surface. As usual, I did speed up this video. I think it's going at 2.5 times the speed, so that I like to keep my videos at about an hour or under an hour if possible. I know it's a huge commitment on your part to sit through an entire painting with me. So if I was doing this in real time, I think I'd probably put you to sleep. But with it sped up, you can still see what I'm working on there, and get you through this painting, hopefully in under an hour. I don't remember how long this one was. I think it was around an hour or so. So still working with my warm colors here. And I'm going to just fill in as much as I want. I don't always fill in everywhere because I'm going to come back in with some cool colors. And I think I dipped into some black there that was still wet, so I've definitely created a gray there. If you are on social media, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, also Pinterest. You can find me there in addition to here on YouTube. My favorite place to hang out is Instagram, just because there's so much to do there and so much to see. If you're watching this, you are most likely a visual artist and you'd love to see stuff as opposed to read about it. And I'm very much that way. I love to see things, and I like to listen to audiobooks. So I don't know if you can catch, I guess I'm trying to move you guys in here. I do have an AirPod in one of my ears there. Oh, I guess we can see it there in my left ear. I tend to listen to audiobooks when I am creating. I find that listening to the spoken word, whether it's an audiobook, podcast, whatever, I don't spend as much time criticizing what I'm working on and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, but rather I just focus on the painting itself and just going through the motions of painting. Here I grabbed a really large chip brush, and it's so funny because this painting I did maybe a month ago or more, and I had this chip brush sitting in I actually forgot to wash it right away, so I had it sitting in Murphy's Oil Soap. If you're in the US, we have a product called Murphy's Oil Soap that is great for wood, cleaning wood. And let me tell you, it's great for cleaning out your brushes. So I had this soaking in some Murphy's Oil Soap along with some water with it. And then yesterday, maybe I had it soaking for way too long, because yesterday when I was at the studio, I finally decided that I would wash the brush out, and the bristles all came apart. I ended up throwing the whole thing away. But the great thing about chip brushes is they tend to be only $1 or $2. So it's not that I wasted a whole lot of money on, a real expensive brush. But it was interesting that it fell apart, and it could be because I had it soaking for far too long. So going back to, I was talking about wanting to, or I love listening to the spoken word as opposed to music when I'm creating. It's something that's really worked for me, and I'm sticking to it. And it's funny because I was looking back at one of my videos from 2018, I think it was 2018, and I was set up in my dining room because it was really hot. I'm in California, it's the middle of summer, it was really hot. And when I was creating my dining room, I've got the TV right there too, not far from me. It's kind of family room, dining room in one room, one space. And so I connected to the internet, and I love the wide brush for filling in quickly. I don't always like to fill in quickly, but I really like that yellow there. So going back to, I was listening to YouTube, and I was just watching, really not watching, but more listening, because I was creating and paying attention to what was in front of me. But I was listening to YouTube about different artists, history of artists, things like that. And that was when I realized, actually it was a bit later, but I realized that I was creating my best work when I was listening to somebody else talking. So if you haven't tried that yet, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos as well, but if you haven't tried that yet and you are finding that you've got that little devil sitting on your shoulder, questioning everything that you're doing when you're creating, give that a try. And if you have tried it, leave me a comment below. Let me know, has that helped? Has it helped you? Do you like that? Or do you still prefer to listen to music? Or maybe you prefer to listen to nothing at all? Either one of those will work. Everyone needs to figure out what works best for them. So leave me a comment below. And also, folks read comments. So if you share your experience, other folks are going to read that, and they're going to learn from your experience as well. Here I've got a scraper. That's not the official name of it. I'm trying to remember what it's called. But it's a rubber like scraper tool, and I love it for spreading paint like this. I can spread it very quickly. I'm having trouble with getting that thing to stay in place. Now I do have I guess I can't really notice it here. I noticed on one of my other painting videos, I've got a fan blowing directly onto my artwork, and sometimes my canvas will bounce back and forth because it kind of goes right underneath it. So this isn't my typical start. I'm kind of spreading more paint around than I am making marks. And that's okay. Sometimes I just veer off and try something different, thinking that this is something that I like. And I do like it when I'm creating it, but then when I step back and look at it, it's like, this is really not me. It's not really my style. It's not my true expression of how I'm feeling. But it works really great for a foundation, is what I'm finding. And I did the same thing the other day on a 48 by 48 painting that I was working on. And I love the way that one turned out too. That's a video coming a bit later. So here I came back in with some red marks. Again, these are representing more of my love for flowers and fields of flowers. So although I did this background that is very subdued and blended, now I'm coming back in with creating more obvious marks, I guess I would say. I've got a little Tupperware container there where I'm mixing my colors, because sometimes my palette is too filled with colors, and obviously if you look at my table, too filled with jars of paints as well. I feel like I need to move them all out of the way, and each time I move them out of the way, the next time I start using paints, they start inching closer and closer and kind of crowding my palette area. So I have switched over to using these Tupperware containers or plastic containers that I've been saving, and that's worked out really well, because then I just mix the color directly into that little container. I don't have a whole lot of marks going on yet, so definitely need more. Now this is another way to create drips, is just put some water on your brush and then press down with your brush onto the canvas, and that'll create some nice drips for you. And there, I kind of threw the paint on there. I don't know why I cleaned it up, because, and then here, and then I throw some more on. So not sure what I was thinking at that point, but I know that these are my early stages, so I'm just throwing some on. I know I'm going to have to wait to dry a lot of this. With this orange, I'm kind of working around some of those drips that I already did. So if you're fairly new to painting, I'm sure that you go through this process of not knowing what you're doing and kind of questioning, what am I doing? Where should I go? What should I do next? And I'm here to tell you that I've been painting in this style since 2018. It's now 2021, September 2021 at the time of this recording. And I can tell in this particular painting, just by my body language, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep doing and see where it takes me. But I can tell by my body language and the way I'm looking at it is I'm just not sure, which way I'm headed. And I held my hand up there because I was trying to figure out if I should block out something. So this painting is nothing like my other ones so far. And I believe that, again, I recorded this, it's been well over a month, so I don't know my entire thought process at the time, but I believe that I was trying to do something a little bit different, similar, but a little bit different, and it just wasn't really working. I can tell looking at it here, it just wasn't working. It's a nice green. And blending it right in. I don't know, I'm just kind of in love with that scraper for some reason. I usually tend to make very obvious marks that are clearly noticeable as marks, and this is a lot of blending going on for me. Okay, still can't remember the name of that tool. If anyone can remember, leave a comment down below. It's a rubbery tool with a straight edge on one side. Actually, mine is curved just a tiny bit, but it's fairly straight on one side. I need to write down the names of these tools so that when I get on here to start recording that I can easily share with you what they're called. I always think I'm going to remember. I like that lighter area up in the corner, working on my values, which is something I typically don't always do until maybe closer to the end. And looking at that photo I posted at the beginning of this video, we all know that this is not coming into the end. Here I've got a tool I was just scratching into that wet paint. If you are a working artist, then I've got a number of different videos that you can check out. If you go to my homepage and scroll down a little bit, there's a section called Art Business, or art marketing, something to that effect. I've got like 4 videos there that you may be interested in. Okay, so it was dry, and I think this is the same day, and I was probably sitting there staring at it for a while. Sometimes I'll do that. I've come back in, and I'm treating this like I'm starting all over. I've started with mark making all over again. And if you're interested in what mark making tools I like to use, the link down below and also in the first comment underneath this video, I'll have a link to my favorite art supplies, and it's got a list of all the ones that I use. So definitely treating this like I'm starting all over. I'm adding my black, did my mark making, and adding lots of black again. So some folks would say, okay, so those first layers I did were a total waste. And I love when I drop my brush. And what I would say to that is, no, they weren't. They were me experimenting and trying something, and at the same time creating this wonderful texture that I wouldn't, or depth that I wouldn't have otherwise. So to me, it's not a waste whatsoever. I enjoyed that whole process, and I'm just going to continue on now. I seem to be looking for something that I lost. Not sure, or maybe I'm looking for colors that I can't find in front of me. It would be nice if I actually grouped them with cool colors and warm colors and maybe yellows in the middle so it's easier to find, but I am not an organized painter. I'm very intuitive, and I don't like to stop and clean up and get organized. Like I did before, I just wiped down my brush a little bit, got rid of some of that black, and then added some white. Okay, so what we're going to do here, this is what I talked about before. I am setting my timer. I'm going to set it for 30 minutes. I already had it at 31 seconds, no big deal. But anyway, basically 30 minutes, and I am going to push myself to move quickly through this process. And this is an exercise that I like to do with my workshops too, and it's less than 30 minutes when I do it in the workshops, but it's basically not thinking and just doing. And I felt that in that beginning process that I was spending way too much time thinking. And of course I was probably doing that because I was trying something a little bit different that I normally don't do. And so that's going to slow you down and make you think more. But after considering what I did and where I wanted it to go, I decided that setting a timer is going to help propel me forward and push me to get this done quickly. So that's why I set the 30 minutes, and let's see how much I can get done in 30 minutes. Now 30 minutes seems like a long time, but when you're working this large, it's you don't get a ton done in 30 minutes. So, but I was quite pleased, and you'll see as we get there that I did get more done than I thought I would be getting done. So I was very happy about that. Now you might notice me looking up on the wall, and what I ended up doing was I posted up there one of my 18 by 24 pieces that I recently created as my inspiration piece. Now, is it going to look just like that? There's just no way it will. And I'm going to show you at the very end that inspiration piece, but I'm glancing up there just to get some ideas of where I should get going on this particular piece. And so I'm adding some elements that I can see that I did in that previous 18 by 24 piece. So I am working quicker. I know I've got a timer going. So I'm trying to move through and do less thinking and more doing. Clearly here you can also tell that I am adding elements that are larger and smaller, and definitely a lot of color, so we've switched to those cool colors. I think I'm trying to find another color to introduce. There we go. I guess I switched back over to the pinks. And that will happen to me if I'm using an inspiration piece of mine that has got a mix of colors, then I start going back and forth. Now I'll have to be careful not to get my cool colors and warm colors mixed, otherwise I'm going to create a muddy color, which of course is okay. Neutrals are great when you're working with bright colors, but not when you don't intend to want them to, you don't want them to be neutral. Then it gets a bit frustrating. If you're enjoying this video, I would so appreciate a thumbs up from you. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. In the lower right hand corner is a round icon with my logo in it. It's a teal color because that's my favorite color. And if you hover above that, you'll get a little thing that says subscribe. So you can subscribe there and then hit the bell. YouTube has you do multi-steps here. So hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and then if you hit the bell, you'll be notified when I have another video coming out. And when you hit the thumbs up and you subscribe, it's really helping not just me, but it's helping fellow artists out there who are looking for videos like this, because what that does is it tells YouTube to play this video for more folks because you're enjoying it. So therefore they should, send it out to more people. And especially if you comment, that helps a lot as well. So if you leave a comment below, let me know if you're enjoying this so far, or if there's anything in here that you've enjoyed, or feel free to ask me questions. I respond usually within 48 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes even shorter. I try to get in there on a regular basis to respond to everybody. I'm using that fluorescent pink that you see in that big jar there. Really fun color and really adds a lot of pop and punch. Now you can tone that down a bit with some white. Seems like that's what I did in that lower corner there. So I like having inspiration pieces, but sometimes it's a little frustrating because then I'm relying on it too much and I keep looking at it, and then I don't feel like I'm working quite as intuitively. But you'll see this one looks nothing like the inspiration piece. It was just a good piece to kind of motivate me and push me into a certain direction. So, and that's why you see some of them up on the wall over on the left. Those are just prints of, not even good prints. These are Costco prints of my artwork that I just put up as inspiration. Sometimes when I get stuck, I'll look at them and say, okay, well, what was working in this one, and what should I do in the current piece that I'm working on that that I haven't considered. I have more prints over off to the, oh, I think I said left side. Those are on the right, and then I've got more on the left side. So I think with my timer running, I'm really pushing myself, even working with the warm and cool colors, and trying not to get them to create mud. And as I mentioned before, this I did create this in the month of August, guaranteed month of August. It is hot in California. I've got the fan blowing. There is no air conditioning at our studios, so the fan is the only thing that helps circulate air and somewhat cool me off. So this is already coming together fairly quickly. I'm already loving all these different colors I've got going. And the composition, the structure of it, I really like. I've got some large elements and some smaller elements. I've got some quiet space and areas that are crazy and chaotic. So there's a balance of that happening already. I try to use a variety of different brushes as well, and I've got brushes in my link for my favorite art supplies, but in addition to those, I just pick up brushes whenever, wherever. Like if I'm at Michael's, I'm in the States, so Michael's is very popular here, and I've got one not too far away, and I'll pop in there when I'm getting other stuff, and if there's a sale on brushes, I'll just pick up a couple of brushes. And yes, there is such thing as having way too many brushes, and as you can see over on the far right, I've got a container full of brushes. I don't know if I'll ever get through all of those. Some of them are brand new, some of them are a lot older that I'm just not ready to throw out. Although they can be thrown out because I don't use them. And I like using a variety, so I like using the flat ones, I like using round, the filbert, different sizes, everything from, my script brush that I love using even on large canvases like this to, a size 14 brush, or even like I did in the beginning there, I think that was like a 2-inch brush that was the chip brush. This is a really nice blue. I don't recall what blue that is, but it looks really cool. Definitely nice next to that yellow. So coming in with an even darker value there. I think that was just black out of the jar, the black that I had used earlier. This is typical of me. I'll put down a color, and even when it's still wet, I might go right back over it. So I'm always looking to balance out my colors and see how one works next to the other. There's my favorite tealish color, and that one's a little bit more blue than teal. If you're enjoying this style of painting, I do have an online workshop that you may be interested in. It's a recording from a live session I did last year, and it's been really popular. Folks have been really enjoying watching it. It's over 2 hours of me walking you through the process from start to finish. I also include some exercises in there that one of those exercises is harmonizing your colors so that your painting comes together. So if you're interested in that, there is a link down below, and you can check that out. It's got a little bit more description in it when you click the link. And that one is, go at your own pace. Like I said, it's 2 hours, and you don't need any special software for that or special program. It is on YouTube, so the link will take you to YouTube. It's a private link to YouTube, and you'll have easy access to it that way. I'm definitely coming in with some lighter values here. And it's starting to come together. It's not quite there yet, but it's slowly coming together. Wow, now that's really white. I don't think I'm using gesso. I'll have to look to see. I've got a jar, yeah, I can see it back further. I've got a jar of titanium white, and it's a little bit brighter than gesso, and that really shows here. As I mentioned, I've been creating this style since 2018 and have had lots of practice. And it took me a while to be able to, there we go, the timer went off. So I turned that off, and I got quite a bit done. So 30 minutes, you really can get a lot done if you push yourself. So if you haven't done that type of exercise before, give that a try. You can do 30 minutes, you can do 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll shorten it because I'm working smaller and I don't have a whole lot of time. So I'll, 10 minutes, 15 minutes and see how much I can get done in that short period of time. So I'm going to continue working on this even though my timer went off, but it really pushed me through those middle stages, and I am so much closer to the end because I really, use that exercise to get me through that. So going back to, I was talking about, I've been painting in this style since 2018. In the beginning, I was doing a lot more of this type of painting on paper, sitting down, relaxed, listening to something, whether YouTube or whatever. And I got a lot of practice doing this on a smaller scale. So like 9 by 12, 11 by 14 paper. I've got 14 by 17 that I do sometimes as well. And what happened was I got really good at doing this style of painting on a small scale. And then when I tried to supersize it, like here, where we're working on 48 by 36, I was struggling. I was just having such a hard time. The whole concept of trying to take it from this smaller piece and go a whole lot larger. And it took me months. And I remember just really being frustrated with myself and struggling with that. But it was a matter of practicing, and I just needed to practice until I became more and more comfortable. And it was, learning to use larger brushes and learning to supersize my marks, because, I was so used to making them smaller on paper, and it was that whole, that memory of trying to learn. Muscle memory is the word I'm trying to put together, but it was the getting a new muscle memory that was a larger scale as opposed to the muscle memory that I had established already working on a smaller scale, if that makes sense. So now, years later, it's much easier for me to work large scale, but sometimes I still get stuck. I still get frustrated. I'm still trying to figure things out. And one thing that I talk about often in my workshops is that painting is not just, putting colors out there and putting it all together, making it look good, but it's all about troubleshooting and problem solving. And that's how I approach all of my paintings. And especially when I'm stepping back like this and I'm looking at it, I am problem solving. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, where does my eye go? What's not working about this? What areas are working? Are these colors working? Are these shapes working? Are the size of these shapes working? So it's all about troubleshooting and solving problems. And, that really plays a lot into just the way I am about life in general. When things go wrong, I just see it as an opportunity to solve it. How do I troubleshoot this? How do I solve it? And I took that energy and that way of thinking into my artwork and worked on figuring things out in terms of, what's working, what's not working. But that also takes some practice and some time. When you're just getting started, just like when I was just getting started, I didn't know, what was working, what wasn't working. It was just through practice and failing and having things not work and being able to look at that and say, well, this isn't working because of this, or it's not working because of that. And avoiding doing those things on my next piece and learning from that so that, and then something else comes up and then you learn, okay, well, that doesn't work either, but this does work. So I should do more of this. A good example of that is the black that I used in the very beginning. I once didn't put enough black at the beginning, or I covered up almost all of it, and then I added it at kind of like at the very end, and I hated it. It was just floating on top, and it wasn't creating the depth that I wanted. So that was a learning experience for me. So now I have learned that, that black, I need to put majority of it on early in the process or midway through the process so that I can create that depth that I'm looking for. So this is really coming together now. We're getting there. I like the dark area over on the right and then over on the left as well. The right one is more of a blue, the left one more black. Okay, so I put this on my phone. I've done this in my other videos. I have this basic tool on my phone that lets me edit. So it lets me pick colors that are already in the painting. And then, oops, I'm trying to cover up that pink with white. There we go. So I was trying to show you. And then maybe add some marks and then maybe add some dots there. So that's an example. I'm going back and forth where what it looks like now and what it possibly can look like. So that pink circle at the top, I didn't like. It really, my eye kept going there first. And I really look at things where my eye goes first when, let's say, I turn around and I walk away from a painting. When I turn back around and look at it, where does my eye go first? And it's not always a good thing. It's usually an area that needs work. So I covered that up with more of a gray. The shape is still there. It's just not in your face anymore. It's not, and plus it was smack in the middle of the top. So really stood out. So here I'm looking at, okay, I wanted to add some marks, some long skinny marks, because I've got the green ones that are a lot thicker and wider up above. I don't want to replicate those. I want to add a variety. So I came in with this lighter gray and then I'm coming back in with a little bit of a darker gray. And now I'm looking at where to put those dots. And I really like doing this on my phone, especially when I'm kind of towards the end and I'm trying to figure out what else can I be doing or what areas need fixing. And it's just a great way for me to be able to do that without getting the paints out. So here I'm just using a small brush and I'm just turning it around to make these circles, twisting it. So I like that. Okay, so I hit those 3 areas that I wanted to do. I think I'm going to be doing something else here too. Here I've got my rigger out. So I've got that nice quiet area of that kind of a really light gray that was super white at one time, but now it's kind of more of a light gray. I like quiet areas, but yet I don't like them to be too quiet. So if I do something that's a bit more subtle, more tone on tone, I like that better. And that's what I did there. So it's not super obvious. Up close, you're going to be able to see it much more. All right, and I'm smiling. I don't know why. Let's see. I think I'm going to show you. Okay. All right, so here I'm going to show you back to, okay, showing you what I did. So what I did on my phone versus what you see on the wall. And that was the before and now the after. So very happy with that. And oh Lord, I don't even know what color that is. I want to say, oh, I think I just went with a red. Yeah, I think that's I think Parole Red maybe. Decided to darken up those areas a bit. Okay, now we've got the thumbs up, so nope, we're back. I think this is no, I got paint out again. Just when I thought I was done, there's something else I want to do. You know what I end up doing here? I end up spraying this, and up close, this is really cool. So again, that bottom area, and I set this down because I didn't want all of them to drip all the way to the bottom. And I know you can't see me here. I'm hitting it with the dryer. So that bottom area that was white or kind of a really light grayish color, it was too simple for me, too quiet. And so coming in with this yellow, which is very subtle, more noticeable up close than it is further away. And you'll see in my detail shots coming up. So that's what I ended up doing down there. And you can see a little bit of it here, but not a whole lot. I think I just wiped away some of it entirely. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, whatever I did, I liked, and I still like. So I just don't remember doing all of that wiping. Okay, so I believe this is another day. I think I let this dry entirely. I always run my hands over it to see if there's anything that's sticking out a bit too much. And in this case, I grabbed a sanding sponge. It's kind of a coarser one, so I can get rid of some of those nubs that stick out a little too much. And I'm coming in with, usually I start with a pencil. Yeah, I've got a really tiny pencil in my hand there. And now my final mark making is much more intentional. I'm looking for ways to enhance the painting, to what I call, add the icing on the cake. Here I'm doing scribbles. I like doing scribbles. And then I erase part of it so that it's not one continuous line of scribbles. I like using Prismacolor pencils, regular pencil. I'll probably, I'm not sure if I switch to my Neocolor crayons. I like adding those sometimes as well. So a variety of different marks. I've got China markers, black, white, yellow, that I like to use. And again, these marks you're not going to see from a distance. It's more of something that you're going to see up close. I like it when people can enjoy my painting from a distance and they're drawn to it, and then when they walk up closer to it, that they really, are rewarded with more interesting marks. Now, the beauty of all of these tools that I use is that you can erase them if you don't like them. Even the crayon marks, the Neocolor 2 crayons that I use, if I don't like them, I just get my regular eraser out. It's my daughter's old eraser from grade school, and I just use that to erase marks. And sometimes they don't erase entirely. Sometimes a little bit is left behind, and then I end up finding out that, well, I love that a little bit was left behind. So after I go through this process of doing my mark making, and really nothing needs to dry at that point, it would be ready for me to do a spray fixative, either a spray varnish or a spray fixative. Either one will work. I will include a link here so that you can check that out. And the link will take you to a video that I created a couple of years ago, and back then I was using a spray varnish to secure my marks, and then I go over it with Liquitex varnish 2 coats. So here we go. We're going to come up close now, and you can see the sides of it. I'm moving it away so that you can see where it ends. See, very subtle marks there. Some of them are subtle, some of them are much more noticeable. Those are my pencil marks I did at the very beginning there. And there the marks are a bit more subtle. Here's my scribbling. Did that with a pinkish color. Again, if you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate a thumbs up from you and having you subscribe to my channel. I send out videos or upload videos on a regular basis. There's another side view there. So if you hit that bell, you'll be notified when I've got another video coming out. I appreciate, if you stuck this out to the very end here, I really appreciate that very much. And remember, I'm happy to answer your questions, so feel free to leave one below or share experiences using different products. Oh, and there's the yellow. See the drips that I did? I love that part. So here I will show you a quick view of my workspace, and then there's the inspiration piece back there. There was one to the left of that that fell off. The tape is still up there, but that was the inspiration piece. Just wanted something to help push me, propel me forward, and sometimes I like to do that. There's my fan that I use, my seating area where I get to stare at my artwork. I've got, so those two pieces there right now are in Santa Cruz at a gallery called Curated by the Sea. This one here has sold and it's gone to Teresa. Thank you again, Teresa. And there's some of my, there's the varnish I like to use. Now these pieces down here, those 3 in a row, are also at Curated by the Sea in Santa Cruz. These 3 are available on my website. This one is available. And there's a quick view of some of my canvas that I've got stashed. And swing you around front door and my painting wall there. Okay, loving the piece. And this one has sold. It's called Garden Patch, and it went to Lori, and I'm in love with it, and she is in love with it as well, which is super important to me. So here are some pictures up close. I would love to create another one like this. So much fun. So that means I have to start like not knowing what I'm doing in the beginning all over again, and then maybe set a timer, use an inspiration piece, but you know, no two never turn out the same. So there's me, very happy that it is done. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate you being here, and you can watch more here, subscribe here, and wishing you a super wonderful and creative day. Take care.